So in the last, I don't know, 15 years, something has changed in the U.S. men's national team. We've got players playing for Barcelona. We've got players winning the Champions League with Chelsea. We've got players on Man City. And it's not just that. We've got a full generation of players coming behind them that are starting to make that move as well. It's pretty incredible seeing the talent getting developed. And with that, we're having people ask the question, not just like, when is the U.S. men's national team going to be able to compete on the world stage? It's specifically, when is the U.S. men's national team going to win the World Cup? To answer that question, I have brought on a man who has some insight into that. I have Jake Castillo with One Goal. Jake has been spending time studying the academy system in the U.S. He spent some time at the Barca Academy down in Arizona recently. So, Jake, when is the U.S. going to win the World Cup?
We'll win the World Cup in 2026.
There you go. 2026.
Yes.
Guys, thank you for tuning in. My name is Sam. This is the anchor part of the show. We talk about U.S. soccer. Today, we have on our guest, Jake from One Goal. One Goal is a U.S. soccer publication that has YouTube videos, Twitter accounts, Instagram. They have a website with a ton of U.S. soccer stories. They have some of the best graphics in the game. Jake just worked on an incredible video on the One Goal YouTube channel that kind of shows you behind the scenes at the Barca Academy. They're a great resource for information for the U.S. men's national team. Now, Jake, while you were down in Arizona at Barcelona, I think it's so incredible just in the last few years, just seeing like this difference of player that the U.S. is producing. Players that are stepping on the field at 17 years old that are like fully fledged professionals. That are ready, that are not intimidated by the world's game. And I think we saw a little preview of that a few months ago whenever the U.S. played Mexico, that we had a bunch of young players, 22 years old, 20 years old, whatever, going toe-to-toe with this Mexican national team, a grizzled veteran Mexican national team, and they didn't seem intimidated at all compared to like previous versions of the U.S. Is that something that you're seeing whenever you go down to these academies?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the biggest difference in this new generation of players is they've been pros now for 10 plus years. Like, they may not be technically pros, but they've been in professional environments. These kids at the Barca Academy that I visited, they're going there 12, 13 years old. And from that time, like, they're moving away from their parents, they're living on their own, and they're fighting for a roster spot to be in that academy every year moving forward. Like, they are, while they're not getting paid yet, they are professionals.
Yeah. And I was reading a little bit about the Barca Academy and kind of what life is like over there. And one thing I read was that if you're going down there, you're going down there to play soccer because there's not a lot else out there in that area.
Yeah, it's literally in the middle of nowhere. That you have the residence halls, a soccer player's dream of soccer fields, futsal courts, everything. The facilities are unbelievable. Other than that, there's nothing there. But, if you're a 13 to 18-year-old kid, like, that's all you want to do anyways. You have your friends living with you. They all play at a high level, and all they want to do is play. So they just literally, like, they go to training, and then when they're not training, they're playing FIFA or they're playing futsal or they're juggling outside their dorms. Like, they live, sleep, and breathe soccer. It's crazy.
So who are these kids? Are they from Arizona? Are they from all over the country? How do you end up in the Barca Academy in Arizona?
Yeah, so they're from all over, not just the U.S. Also, there's kids from Thailand, from like all over Asia, Europe. But primarily it is American kids, and you have to try out and like apply to go there. And yeah, it's not, they won't take just anyone. You have to be a special player. Because it's a special group of kids at that academy.
And they're already producing results. Like, we know that Matthew Hoppe is a graduate from that academy. Caden Clark is a graduate from that academy. Julian Araujo is a graduate from that academy. And these are all players that not only have made an impact at the senior level, but possess a technical and tactical ability that's beyond what we saw from a U.S. men's national team player at that age maybe 10 years ago. So is that something that they're like drilling in every day at this academy?
Yeah. They teach the same thing they teach at La Masia, right? It's a hybrid program between the two kids. Caden Clark, Julian Araujo, they all went to the La Masia at times last summer or 2 summers ago. So yes, they focus a lot on tactics that you have to have the technical side that a Barca player would have, but also the mentality thing. You see that with Matthew Hoppe. Like last season, he was in a relegation fight, yet he still was able to perform at a high level and get goals. And it's because of that mentality that they instill at the academy. Those kids, yeah, like they're different, and they mold them into young men. And they're just every kid that I spoke to, I was so impressed with, because they're 14, 15 years old, but they carry themselves like young adults.
Yeah, man. One of my favorite new U.S. soccer podcasts is the Orange Slices podcast with Heath Pierce and Mark McKenzie. And for those of you who don't know, if you're that young, Heath Pierce was a former left back, I believe, for the U.S. men's national team. 10, 15 years ago, something like that. So you have kind of the old generation and Heath Pierce of U.S. men's national team players, and you have the young generation and Mark McKenzie. Mark McKenzie, of course, was a graduate of one of these type of academies at the Philadelphia Union Academy. But Heath Pierce talked about whenever he was growing up, his goal in life was always just to play at the Olympics. Like, he didn't really think about being a professional. He didn't think about playing in Europe. He didn't think about the World Cup, although he did end up playing in Europe. For him, it was just about making the Olympics. And he always saw like the European teams, the great teams in the world, the great talents in the world, as just like something that was unreachable. But it seems like these kids coming through, particularly if you're playing at the Barca Academy, that's not a thing, that they consider themselves up there with some of the best players in the world already.
Absolutely. Yeah, they understand, and it's drilled into them that if they perform well enough and they grow like they should and like the coaches expect them to, that playing at Barcelona in Spain is not out of the question. And it's not so much an aspiration, but it's like almost the goal and like the expectation that like these kids are good enough and they should get there. There's no reason they can't get there. Whereas, yeah, like with Heath Pierce, that wasn't an option, right? That wasn't on the table. For these kids, it's on the table, and it's like there's a couple kids in there right now where I'm going to be surprised if they don't sign with Barca in Spain over the next couple of years.
It's so funny, man, because I've heard the similar story from like Jimmy Conrad and Alexi Lawless and just a lot of these guys, that the road didn't exist to become a professional, much less reach the national team or get to Europe. But for these kids, is there like a tangible roadmap? Is there like scouts that attend this academy? How does like Julian Araujo go from Barca to the LA Galaxy, or Caden Clark to New York Red Bulls? Guys, before we get too deep into this conversation with Jake, I want to take a minute to thank our sponsor for this video, and that is OneFootball. OneFootball is a free app that is an awesome resource for soccer fans, whether you're a fan of the national team or you're a fan of a European team or a fan of Chelsea or just want to learn more about the game altogether. I get to find out when the players are actually playing, which is sometimes difficult during like a busy European season, and if I miss the game, I get the stats right there so I can see how they did right on my phone. It is an incredible resource if you want to track players or you want to track teams. So check out the link in the description if you want to download the OneFootball app. It will directly support the Yank Report, and it will bring you the latest information on your favorite player, your favorite team, your favorite league, whatever it is that you want more information about. Now back to Jake.
Yeah, the pathway is so clear, right? It's you get to the under 19 team, right? You graduate to the U19 level, you perform at a high level, and when either like worst case scenario, a USL team will take you, right? Good scenario, an MLS team will sign you, right? Or best case scenario, La Masia is going to hear about you and they're going to sign you.
Yeah, and that's difficult though, because there's the passports and there's all that stuff going on. So for a lot of these kids, you got to wait till you're 18 to go over there, or you're going to be training with the junior side anyway. But the fascinating thing about academies like the Barca Academy is they're not the only ones in this country. In fact, they're not even the most successful ones in this country. We've seen FC Dallas over the past 5-10 years or so develop incredible talents. I mean, looking at the call-ups, I think I'm trying to remember whether it was the Nations League or the Gold Cup. I counted that like 20% of the roster had been through the Dallas Academy at some point. and they're one. We're seeing what Philadelphia Union is doing right now with players like Mark McKenzie and Brendan Aronson already making it to Europe, but players like Paxton Aronson right behind him. You've got DC United that's having this crazy wave of talent right now with like Kevin Paredes and Moses Nyman, and there's a few others. What's the guy's name who just scored? Yeah, Griffin Yao. Yeah. I can't keep up with all these 2000s baby names, man. Aiden, Caden, Griffin, Cade. It's kind of
and there's
funny.
a new one every week. That's the amazing thing. At every one of these academies in MLS, there's a new kid emerging each and every week and just showing like, wow, this kid could be a national team player. This kid could be a national team player. It's insane. Every academy has it, and yeah, it's only going to get more and more saturated with time.
What you say, every academy has it, but there's one academy in particular that's been a bit behind expectations. And I saw you wrote an article recently about a player from it, and that's the LA Galaxy. Now, they have produced some talent, but you would think that like Southern California is a soccer hotbed, and the LA Galaxy is probably the most famous club in MLS. Yet we haven't seen like those players break through from LA Galaxy. I think the biggest prospect they have right now is probably Julian Araujo, and he was developed at the Barca Academy. What do you have any insight to what's going on there?
Yeah. So I think there's really two major things at play here. First and foremost, at least historically, the Galaxy has been so focused and over-focused on star power that the roster spots aren't available to these young academy kids. And yeah, so if you're a young academy kid, you just don't see a clear pathway, right, to there. So if you're a super talented kid, you don't sign with the Galaxy. Instead, like a Matthew Hoppe, who could have been an LA Galaxy player, he decides to go to the Barca Academy because there's a more clear pathway to first team football there. Same with Uli Yanez, Alex Mendez. So it's not, the talent is there. They're just choosing not to sign with the Galaxy because, yeah, with the roster selections the Galaxy's making, it just doesn't make sense. Like you're going to be an Efrain Alvarez, right, where you're a baller, but you're only getting spot minutes here and there. And then before you know it, you're 18, 20 years old, and it's like you still haven't really put a full season of professional minutes under your belt.
That's really interesting. And we're seeing this wave. I mean, I would say it started last year, maybe the year before that, and this year it's just like an explosion of teenagers and academy prospects just showing out. It seems like every single week in MLS. It seems like no matter what game you put on, you're going to see some homegrown player come out and just look like the best player on the field. Is there any guys in MLS right now that you've been watching? I know like Gianluca Busio is a player that's must-see TV for me every week.
He's so clean on the ball. Yeah, Busio is special. I think my favorite player right now is Moses Nyman. I think he's the most complete. While he does have his defensive deficiencies, just like his soccering ability is so high that watching him was just a pleasure. It's like, man, this kid's going to be so special. Once he develops a little more physically and gets used to the professional side of the game, he's so special.
I like that verb, man. Soccering ability.
Thank you. But yeah, he's special. Cade Cowell, he's so raw. I like watching him. Sometimes he's a little too raw for my liking, right? Like his touch leaves me wanting a little more. But it's like when you think about it, the kid is basically Jordan Morris, but he's 10 years younger. And it's like, if he can just get a little more refined, he's going to be a force, man.
And he's starting his professional career at 17 as opposed to, how old was Jordan? 20, 21, something like that? 22? Yeah, that's crazy, man. On Moses Nyman, I mean, there's moments in watching him where he just seems special, man. His ability to recognize when he can win a ball and close that gap on a player and just nip in and steal the ball is like Tyler Adams-esque, man. Once he starts getting those game minutes and putting it together, he's going to be a player. But boy, I watched DC United's smashing of, I forgot how they played, but Kevin Paredes. My goodness. I mean, defensively, he was just, I mean, he created goals by winning balls for DC United and recycling them, and he scored a goal himself. And this is a player that, confession, I hadn't heard about until Greg Berhalter mentioned him in his press conference as someone who could potentially make the Gold Cup roster.
Yeah, he's left me feeling really silly this season, because last season when he was getting minutes here and there, I wasn't very impressed. I was like, oh, he's just like a hardworking, like left wing back, and he's nothing special. But this season, oh my God, like the guy, he's got way more skill than I gave him credit for initially. And yeah, his like ability to read the game and work rate, he's a special player. I was wrong about him. He's definitely one to watch.
Yeah, and that's the thing whenever talking about these kids, because they are kids, is that getting better isn't a linear thing, that they can just have big jumps and things change game to game, or like it could take month to month. And, we live in a world with the U.S. men's national team that like 19 is old, or like 20, 21 is old. It's funny that Luca De La Torre is like an older player in our team, even though I think he's 22 years old. I think he's the same age as Pulisic. So 22 is old for our squad. But yeah, these players can get better. They can develop. They can game over game. Things can get better. I remember watching Caden Clark week 1. Caden Clark week 1 for New York Red Bulls. And I remember watching him and thinking, like, he's so good whenever he's on the ball, but he's so rarely on the ball, and he doesn't seem like he wants to be a part of the game. He seems like he's kind of lost. He's good at pressuring and getting the ball back, but he's just not involved. And then a couple weeks later, I watch him again, and he's playing the 10 spot, and he's orchestrating the offense. And it's just the growth of these players week over week is just something special to see.
Yeah, you're right. It's not I just naturally assume it's going to be a linear thing, but it really is exponential. Just like overnight, they'll suddenly become amazing. It's crazy.
Now, you mentioned 2026 as when we are going to win the World Cup. So what is it about 2026 that you think everything's going to come together?
So what I equate it to is France in, what was that? That was 2014. 2014, they were like, that's what this 2022 is going to be for us. Like, we're going to be a really good, exciting team. And it's like, everyone's going to kind of turn their eyes and be like, wow, they're pretty good. They're ones to watch. But ultimately we're going to get knocked out. And I think a team with a little more experience, that's a little more grizzled, will knock us out, and they'll take us out. But everyone that was on that roster that will be next year will have gained that experience. They're going to take that loss like on the chin. And then come 2026, they're gonna be ready for it in the same way that France was ready for the 2018 World Cup and come and win it. And we have the home field advantage. And it's like, if you just look, all of our players are going to be in the prime of their careers at that time.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say, man. What you're saying by saying that is that we're going to have a roster that's as good in 2026, that's as good as like France's is right now, or like Italy or England is in the semifinals of the Euros, Brazil. And whenever you're talking about a Brazil, that's a team that, brought on Fabinho in the 87th minute as a sub. That's the kind of quality that we'd have to have. You think that we could get there to a point where we've got Champions League players at every position and the Champions League players as backups?
I think so. And I think that needs to be the expectation. And if you look at it, like in this past Nations League roster, we were almost there. They weren't the same caliber as Firmino, but we brought Tim Weah off the bench, who, come next season will be a Champions League level player. And, you throw in Brennan Aronson off the bench. That's a Champions League level player. I'd say next season, like, we bring in Caden Clark off the bench, Champions League player. So I think we'll be there. It's definitely, the stars will have to align for us to win, but it's going to be on home soil, which I think is an underrated advantage, right? You look at how well Russia performed last World, without a very impressive roster compared to how they performed in the Euros, right? They didn't really, same roster pretty much, but they didn't have that same home field advantage.
I gotta say though, there's Champions League players and then there's Champions League players.
Yes,
Like
that's
Brendan Aronson is going to be in the Champions League for a few minutes, whereas whenever Brazil brought in Vinicius, who's a Real Madrid player, they brought in another Real Madrid player and they brought in a Liverpool player. So you've got guys who were in the Liverpool won a couple years ago. Real Madrid was in the semis this year. Like these aren't just like get a cup of coffee in the Champions League type players. These are like the best of the best of the best of the best type players. That's what we have to have. So for me, I think it's going to be a little bit longer. I think 2030. I think guys like Justin Shea and Chris Richards have to develop into the type of defenders that everybody wants them to be, and they also have to be 30 years old. When that happens, I think that's whenever we're going to have an opportunity to win a World Cup. I don't know if we can do it before that.
Yeah, as you say that, it may be the optimist in me speaking, right?
Yeah.
Just I want us to win that World Cup so bad, right? I'll be in the stands just going crazy. But yeah, I think you're right. It may take a little longer because at the end of the day, no team has won a World Cup without a really solid back line. And our back line, even in 2026, still will be maybe one cycle too young. Right? Chris Richards and Justin Shea.
Yeah.
Whatever other baller comes and benches both of them realistically, right? Because so it's tough, but it's tough.
I'm glad you said that because that's the thing, man. People always ask me about like projections for like the 2026 World Cup or like even the 2022 World Cup, and I'm just like, I didn't even know Kevin Paredes' name like a couple of weeks ago. And all of a sudden, I think this dude might be the left back for starting for the World Cup. Like the players are developing at a rate right now that I don't feel comfortable predicting anything. Like I think Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna, Weston McKennie, and Tyler Adams will be there, but outside of that, I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, and like there's we think players are good right now, but like just wait until we see how good the next crop of players are, right? Like I used to think Bobby Wood was really good. But now it's like he can't tie Christian Pulisic's boots. So there's going, and I know it's hard for some people to swallow, but there is going to be a holding midfielder that comes and makes Tyler Adams obsolete. It's going to happen. That's just the reality of it. There are better players than Tyler Adams out there in the world, and one of them is going to be American. That's the way it works. Same with Pulisic. It's hard to fathom, but it's a reality.
Well, speaking of players getting better, I know one thing that I feel like doesn't really get a lot of discussion about our current crop of players is it seems to sound like people think that like Tim Weah, for instance. Tim Weah was a contributor for Lille this year, wasn't really a starter, had some really great moments. And it sounds like people think that like he's just slotted in as the backup for the winger position for the U.S. men's national team. But to me, a guy like Tim Weah might be kind of in the position that Christian Pulisic was at Dortmund a few years ago, where like Christian was literally in that position, although he showed a lot more top end ability than Weah. But there's an opportunity for Weah to, in a couple of years, be on that level of like a Champions League level. These guys like Josh Sargent or even Gio Reyna or Brendan Aronson, like we don't know how good they're going to be. So I want to pose it to you that the European season's coming up. We've got a lot of Americans at a lot of places. We've got some Americans hoping to make their senior team debuts. We're in preseason right now, or we're about to be in preseason. Are there any guys that you're kind of circling right now that you're thinking are going to have a big year?
Yeah, I think Matthew Hoppe, he's going to have a big year, and he's going to really challenge for that starting number 9 spot. Regardless of whether, I think he's going to stay at Schalke, and he's going to get a ton of minutes. He's probably going to be the starter, and yeah, he's going to be playing against a little lower opposition, and we're really going to see what he can offer because in the 2 Bundesliga, he's going to be asked to play soccer rather than whatever it is Schalke did last season because it wasn't soccer. This time he'll actually have to play, and we're going to kind of have a better idea of who he is as a player.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, he's going to be a two Bundesliga player. I don't rate the two Bundesliga very highly. I've watched a little bit here and there, and it's just, I mean, if you want to say it's better than MLS, okay, maybe it's a little bit better. But if it's a little bit better, it's not a lot better. It's not like
That's
worlds
fair.
better than MLS. As it's
You
heading
upset
into the
your
season right
uproar
now,
now. You
what's that?
you upset a lot of Eurosons right now. They're very mad in the comments.
Yeah, I mean, show me where it's better, man. Like there's just not a lot of even the coefficients between leagues. They don't really show that the two Bundesliga is better. I don't know that the two Bundesliga is exporting prospects at the rate that MLS is right now. It's very different. MLS has like 30 teams, and the two Bundesliga probably has like 18 or something like that. So it's comparing apples to bananas. But anyway, I don't want to get off on a tangent right there. But as we stand right now, we've got two strikers heading into the European season that are going to be playing for the two Bundesliga. So it's going to be like a direct comparison between Josh Sargent and Matthew Hoppe, assuming that Josh Sargent doesn't make a move. Now, Josh Sargent is a player that I think every U.S. national team fan was expecting big things from last year, and he didn't deliver. So we've got Josh Sargent. We've got Daryl DK. What are your thoughts on the U.S. men's national team striker pool as we head into this European season?
We need Ricardo Pepi to get good fast. We need him to develop fast. Like, who was it? When I was watching the Euros, I forget what player it was, but I saw a run they made, and Josh Sargent just doesn't make that run. He doesn't have the same urgency. And I was a huge Josh Sargent guy, but I just don't think he has the urgency needed to be the guy. I never see him really like sprint. Maybe he's sprinting, he's just not fast enough. I don't know. But he's never getting to that near post as fast as he needs to get. He's never in the box. The guy, like, and yeah, he had that goal line save in the Mexico game, but other than that, he doesn't do a lot because he's never in the box. And it's like, your job as a striker is to score goals. And how are you going to do it from outside the box? So Daryl DK, same thing. Like, the guy, he plays with cement blocks on his feet. I think he's very physical, but I don't know if he has the touch necessary to take us to the next level. Yeah, we need Ricardo Pepi to get good.
Yeah, I mean, I was putting a lot of stock in the Nations League for Josh Sargent. Like, I really wanted to see how he performed with that squad, and the way he performed was pretty much exactly like he performs for Werder Bremen, where he's just not goal dangerous, man. There's never a time where you feel like, oh, Josh is going to get him one. He's feeling it right now. He seems every time there's like an opportunity, a half chance in the box, he's not scoring that. If there's a 50-50 ball in the box, he's not winning that. The way that he takes his runs in the box, it seems like he gives defenders opportunities to catch him. And I compare that with like a Daryl DK, even in that Costa Rica game where Daryl DK, you could talk about his touch, you could talk about, whatever you want, but the dude is scary. Like, if you're a defender playing against Daryl DK, you're worried about where that dude is and what he's doing at all times. It's hard to argue with a dude who just scores goals. So if he can continue to do that, the sky's the limit. But Ricardo
and he's
Pepi,
always knocking on the door. Like,
that's
the next thing. Like, he's like, you're right. Like, compared to Josh Sargent, like, he's not even in the neighborhood. But Daryl DK, he's always at your door. Like, hey, if you just one slip up and I'm here, I'm gonna get it.
Yeah, that first goal for the U.S. against Costa Rica was a result of Daryl DK getting in a great position, taking a shot on goal. It got deflected. I forgot who eventually put it in, but that's Daryl DK. Daryl DK is going to create those opportunities throughout the game, and he's also going to be a bit of physical presence in the hold-up game. He's going to make those runs in behind that we just didn't see from Josh Sargent. We didn't see really from anybody in the Nations League. I was a big Sargent fan. I'm going to become a big DK fan, but man, you talked about Ricardo Pepi, and the last few games for Ricardo Pepi, we spoke earlier about players that just seem to make big leaps all of a sudden. I've watched a few games with FC Dallas where Pepi got limited minutes and he was kind of a non-factor. And then all of a sudden you just see all the tools come together for Pepi.
Yep. It's like it just all clicks suddenly. Mm-hmm. And then they're just able to hit the ground running. And yeah, I watched the FC Dallas game yesterday, and he he's just always in the box when the ball is like in that area. And it's like, it sounds like an easy ask, but it's tougher than you think. And he's always in the box. And that's, I can't overstate how important that is.
He's a striker that seems to have all the tools. Like his ability on the ball is there. He has the intelligence that runs in behind. He seems to be able to make the acrobatic goals. He had a nice header the other day off of Jesus Ferreira. Just kind of that complete player. So man, I know people kind of wanted him to be a part of the Gold Cup. I'm kind of happy he's not in the Gold Cup. I'm kind of happy that if he found this momentum with FC Dallas, that he can stay in that groove and just keep performing. I know that they've got a designated player at the striker position, so it's going to be, Dallas is going to be under a lot of pressure to play that guy because they're paying him a lot of money. But a high performing Ricardo Pepi, boy, it's kind of sad. I've been making videos about the striker position for the U.S. men's national team since this channel started, and it's pretty sad that after all this time, after the Nations League, after this whole summer, after all this, we're still going, well, I hope this new guy can do it, because the guys we have right now, I don't know about them.
Well, I mean, and yeah, let's be real, right? Like, we're all going to be talking about the great hope at striker, right?
Mm-hmm.
And come 2022, the first game of group stages, it's going to be Gyasi Zardes. Just accept it. Like,
well, speaking of Gyasi Zardes, we have the Gold Cup coming up. I think it's a week away. It's coming up on us pretty quick. Now, the Gold Cup roster is this kind of hodgepodge of like all kinds of different players that fill all kinds of. It's a weird thing. It's looking like Mexico's got a pretty strong lineup. It's looking like Canada's got a pretty strong lineup. Do you have any expectations heading into the Gold Cup, or is there anything you're looking to see specifically?
I mean, I hope he can prove me wrong, and like he's a lot better than I give him credit for. Other than that, I don't think there's a whole lot to see, right? Right now it's just a bunch of people competing for spots, 20 through 23 on the roster. And yeah, I think I'm worried about Mexico. That their roster is looking pretty nice. Ours is not. Yeah.
Well, Greg Berhalter brought, what did he bring? 4 6s, I think. Yule, Kellen Acosta, Busio, and Eric Williamson. And then he also has Moses Nyman training with the team. So that's a 5th 6. So hopefully somebody shakes out of that. And then we've got 3 left backs in Vines, Bello, and then we've got Kevin Paredes, who's going to be training with the squad at least at the beginning. So potentially somebody shakes out at that position. Those are the 2 positions that I'm most worried about. And then the striker position, he brought Joaquini, he brought Hoppy, he brought Zardes, and he brought what's the third one? 4th one? DK. Yeah, forgot about DK. Of course. So it seems like Craig really wanted to address those positions of need and didn't so much worry about a functional squad.
Yeah. He's not too concerned with balance.
You had to get that word in there, didn't you?
Yeah. My concern is that, like, all the people mentioned, like, if you found out you went to sleep and woke up next year in the World Cup and you found out one of them were starting, would you be super ecstatic about any of them starting? Because I wouldn't.
I mean, you talk about the strikers or the 6s, or like, what are you talking
about? Any of those positions, any of those players mentioned.
Honestly, I don't know what's going to become of Matthew Hoppy or Daryl Dike in the next year and a half, and I don't know what's going to become of Gianluca Busio in the next year and a half. So I could see any of those players developing into somebody that I would be okay with starting in the World Cup. I've kind of developed a position as a U.S. men's national team fan that I have no idea what's going on, and that anything can happen at any time, and that I need to calm down on all of my takes because players just kind of come out of anywhere at this point.
That's fair. Yeah. And of all the players that I think could sneak into the lineup, it probably is Busio or Hoppy. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But as you were talking through it, I think the most interesting thing that we can see in the Gold Cup is Matt Turner.
Mhm.
Because if I had my way, he would be starting over Zach Steffen, and hopefully this tournament gives him the opportunity to prove that he deserves that role, because
Yeah,
he's very good.
that goalkeeper role seems to be a little bit more open than it was a couple months ago, with some of Zach Steffen's performances and the fact that Zach Steffen is likely going to be the Manchester City backup for another season. So with Horvath looking great in the Nations League and Matt Turner just consistently being an incredible shot stopper, it seems like that might be more of a fight than anybody really gave it credit for heading into 2022.
Absolutely, yeah. Matt Turner is just a very reliable goalie. He's not going to make any mistakes. He's just going to do his job and get it done. He may not be as good with his feet as Zach Steffen, but he's going to keep the ball out of the net. Zach Steffen, yeah, he probably has more of a knack for the spectacular, but he's also almost guaranteed one major mistake game. And
that's
my goalies, I just want you to do one thing: it's block the ball. And I don't really trust Zach Steffen to do that for 90 minutes.
The thing that we heard so much about Zach Steffen was his ability with his feet. And, that was supposed to get even better playing under Pep Guardiola at Man City. But in the Nations League, I didn't think he was very good with his feet at all. Whereas Ethan Horvath came in, and Ethan Horvath is supposed to be not so great at the distribution, but I saw him hit really nice balls. So for me, that's not even a plus for Ethan Horvath, for Zach Steffen at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And so a lot of my friends are Mexico fans, and they texted me during the game, and they're like, whoever the new goalie is that came in for the U.S., he plays with so much more urgency than Zach Steffen. Zach Steffen, it seems like he plays with this like air of confidence because he's a Man City player. This is what they said. And it was hard for me to argue against, right? Because Ethan Horvath did come in, and you could feel this urgency in his play that I just don't get with Zach Steffen.
Yeah, he definitely had some emotion to him. I don't know if you saw that his post game speech after the game, whenever Berhalter handed him the ball, but you could tell that the players really care about Ethan, and they really wanted to support him, and they had a lot of confidence in him, and he definitely was an emotional lightning rod for that squad, and definitely soothed things at the end of that game, because boy, I mean, your goalkeeper gets injured at the end of a game like that. That's so intense. I mean, anything can happen. And Ethan came in and was just a wet blanket on the Mexico attack from the start.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly, I think if Zach Steffen doesn't get hurt, we lose that game.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up right there. In closing, I got a few questions for you. Some general U.S. men's soccer, U.S. men's national team. I said U.S. men's soccer team, U.S. men's national team fandom questions. And my first question for you is a very controversial question. What is your favorite U.S. men's national team jersey of all time?
Oh, I like the all white one. It's the one Donovan scored the goal against Algeria in. Yeah, it's like white with the Nike. It's
okay. Does it have the stripes? It has the blue stripes.
Yes, yeah, it's like I think it's like a sash, right?
Yeah, no, it's not a sash. It just has like hoops. It has like thin hoops.
Yeah, that one. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites, man. That is a clean look. How do you feel? Mine is, I mean, I guess the Waldos.
Really, you're a Waldo guy.
I think it has to be the Waldos. Yeah,
it's bold. It's a bold look. I'm a man of simple taste, so.
I think, the Waldos were the ones that I played with on FIFA the most, and it just came ingrained into my brain that that's what the U.S. men's national team is supposed to look like. But speaking of jerseys, how do you feel about the new ones?
It looks better when it's on people than when you just see the jersey itself. I was actually going to buy one, but I like my jerseys without a number, and on the back, it looks kind of weird when there's no number because it's just like this like huge red and then there's like a blue at the bottom. So, I mean, I don't know. I'll probably love them if we win the Gold Cup.
That's the same thing with the Waldos. The Waldos had like just a square in the middle if you didn't have a number.
Yeah. So it's like, I guess like for on the players, it's gonna look better than I think it'll look on the fans.
Yeah. All right, last question. It's game day for the U.S. It's like a big important qualifier. Do you have any rituals or superstitions that you do on game day?
Oh, let's see. Um, Pretty much like I just tell everyone like not to bother me. And they know like it's game time, so like stay out of like my space. I put my phone on do not disturb because I don't want like you. I have like everyone I know seems to be like a USMNT hater, and I don't want them blowing up my phone. I don't want Bleacher Report coming in with like a spoiler if my stream's delayed. Yeah, I just need a safe space where I can watch the game in peace.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't want to ever go to a bar or anything like that.
No, because I get too emotional,
Yeah.
and like, it honestly like it'll like the Nations League game. The first 20 minutes, I was done. I was like, soccer's stupid. I don't know why. I like it's the worst game ever. And then at the end of the game, it's like I wanted to shout from the rooftops, like, I bleed red, white, and blue, and Pulisic is the chosen one. So I'm just too emotional to be with other people.
Jake, thank you so much for coming on. Please take a moment to tell everybody where they can find your work and tell us about One Goal.
Yeah, guys. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're really trying to get to 1,000 followers. We're about 100 away. It'd be great if you guys could get us there. If you're not into that, we have a Twitter account, OneGoalUS. We have a website, OneGoal.us. Yeah, check us out. We love the game and we just want to help grow it. And yeah, we'd love for you to come along the ride.
Jake, thank you so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun. Guys, thank you for watching. If you are watching at this point, you're not yet subscribed, I would definitely hit that subscribe button unless you're an absolute maniac and you just like watched 40 minutes worth of soccer talk and you're not into this kind of thing. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. I appreciate it so much for everybody hits the like button. Thank you for tuning in. Please leave us comments in the comment section about how you felt about the conversation. If you speak Spanish, leave that comment in Spanish. My name is Sam, and this is the Anchor Report.